All right, you're all set.
Hi. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The April 19th meeting of the Town of West Hartford Commission on Veterans Affairs. Anybody want to call a motion to call to order? I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
You can just call to order, Madam Chair.
I'm just calling it to order. Yeah. Got a lot of parliamentary stuff in my head today. Mr. Secretary, can you do a roll call?
Sure. Dave Polyuk. Here. Garrett Sheehan is not here. John Johnson.
Here.
Jeremy Donnelly.
Here.
Alexis Davidoff. And Kate Hamilton is here.
Here.
And I'm Adam Rader. I'm here. Oh, John Kelleher. Hello, John.
John, you're still muted.
Excuse me, but I apologize. I just realized that it wasn't Zoom that I was trying to join, so it took me my usual 15 minutes or so to get connected.
No worries. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. What have we got next? Approval of minutes?
Oh, yep. So,
or introduction of our new members?
approval of minutes.
Okay.
Uh,
I apologize for getting those minutes for those of you who are returning members. I'm sorry that just yesterday, this morning, got the minutes out to you. I thought that had been done a long time ago. So this is minutes for our special meeting on
September 21st.
Okay.
Okay. I call a motion to approve the minutes from September 21st.
I second.
Okay. And minutes approved. So we have 3 new members of the commission. 2 are here right now. We have Mr. John Kelleher and Alexis Davidoff. And then we have Matt Hart, who should be joining us later. And so I wanted to welcome them, welcome them to the commission. If they'd like to introduce themselves and if they feel comfortable, maybe share why being a member of this commission is important to them.
Lexi.
Oh, I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
I'm Lexi Davidoff. Some people call me Alexis, but I am, as many of you know, my husband, Leon, he's on the town council, but that's not why I joined this. I really feel very strongly about veterans. My father was a veteran. He was very involved with the American Legion. He worked for the U.S. Army as a civilian. And so I really got involved with that whole side of it. And I love planning events. I was very involved with planning the Hall High School Safe Grad, both the times my daughters graduated. So I really want to get involved with planning things for the veterans because I think that's our town is missing that piece, and I'd like to get more recognition for the vets.
Thank you, Lexi.
Excellent.
John?
Yes, I'm a retired, well, primarily my Army time was reserve, but I did do a couple of years of active as well. But I am retired from the reserves. I have 2 sons that have served in the military, and one is currently in the Air Guard here in Connecticut after 13 plus years on active duty. So I have always had an interest in veterans affairs. My primary reserve duty was the 76th Division on South Quaker Lane. So I'd be happy to do whatever I can do. Okay, that's.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. Does anybody?
Well, Matt, I was just wondering, Madam Chairwoman, if maybe our other members who may not know John or Lexi, Dave, John, Jeremy, and you, Kate, if you'd like to share a little bit about your military services, so everyone's up to speed with one another.
Sure, sure. Dave, do you want to go first?
Sure. Hey, I'm Dave Polyuk. Previously in town, I served on the Board of Education, but in my much younger days, I was in the Army as a field artillery mechanic. That was back in the 80s and a long time ago, buddy. I tell you what, but yeah, my wife laughs at me that we've been married over 20 years, but I think more and tell more stories about the 3 years I was in the Army than I do about my 20 years married to her. So take that for what it's worth. But happy to be here. I'm in my third year on the commission. It hardly seems like it with the pandemic, but thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to it.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I'll go next. Great meeting you both, like John and Lexi. So my name is John Johnson. I think Adam and I joined the commission around the same time. It's been what, probably 4 years now, Adam? At least 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Marine Corps, officer right out of college, and I spent about 10 years active duty. I was a CH-53 helicopter pilot, primarily based out of San Diego for a few years, and then I spent a few years on recruiting duty, active duty in the Boston area, and then my wife and I moved to Connecticut in 2017. I worked for the company's changed names a few times now, but it was Hamilton. Now it's Collins Aerospace, formerly part of UTC, now part of Raytheon, but up in Windsor Locks. So, yeah, actually, just one note for everyone here too. I'm still in the Marine Reserves, and I think I've mentioned that before. But I actually, just as far as like a month and a half, 2 months ago, I just got a new reserve job. I was going down to DC once a month. I'm now a recruiting support officer for our Springfield station. So, not that it has a lot to do with veterans, but, if anyone, Springfield station has all of Connecticut, Western Mass, and Rhode Island. So that being said, if you're looking, I can help put someone in contact. If you have anyone in high school or college that's looking for specifically Marine Corps stuff, I can talk to them. So, but yeah, great to meet everyone.
I mean, it is. Thank you. I mean, it is relevant. You're in the pipeline to make new veterans.
Yeah, exactly.
The manufacturing process, right?
He also lives on the best street in West Hartford.
That's right. Adam and I are neighbors, so.
I guess.
Lexi lives in the best neighborhood,
Yes.
so I'm gonna.
Also, okay.
We all live near each other. So.
Right. Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Donnelly. Come from kind of an Army family. All my grandfather's generation served in World War II. My father's generation, Vietnam. I joined the Army in 1992, served from 92 to 2000, all in the reserves. I was a combat engineer, New York State, up around Fort Drum. So I spent a lot of time there on that base. Never got deployed. It was the 90s, so never went anywhere. But Veterans Affairs were always very important to me, like I said, in my family, and that's why I wanted to be a part of this commission.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I was in the Air Force. I joined in '94. I was an airborne surveillance technician on the E3 AWACS. And Jeremy, I was deployed the entire time. I did all of them for you and for everybody else in the 90s. I think it was like 300 days a year.
Wow.
In the desert typically. Veterans Affairs of, like a lot of us, all of my grandparents from World War II, but also including some of the women, surprisingly enough. And then, of course, all the dads with Vietnam era, all of the uncles, some of the aunts. It was just what you did. So I married somebody in the Air Force who comes from a similar background. All of my cousins, most of my cousins have joined the military. So it's people ask me if it's a family business. My brother and sister, it's just all of us. It turns out I didn't realize at the time growing up, but it just turns out it's something that we do. So our next agenda item, we were going to hear from our former town manager, Matt Hart. He was going to talk about about the transition from service to civilian life. He is at a work meeting right now, but he will be here, hopefully by 7:30. So we'll move on to item number 6, and then when he gets here, we'll slot that back in. So when at our last meeting in September, we had talked about possibly supporting legislation, bipartisan legislation to benefit veterans. I had heard from a gentleman from Eastern Connecticut that works as a veteran service officer, veteran service support, and he was concerned about the headstone setters, that their reimbursement rate for their labor hadn't been increased in a number of years, and he was struggling to find people to do this. And if what good is a headstone and a marker if you can't find a professional to set it? So we started that process. I work at the Capitol, and so I spoke with a legislator that was happy to support the legislation. We were discussing it and had broad bipartisan support. Did some research and come to find out that, hold on, it's going to be very loud maybe. I'm going to mute it so it's not too loud for you.
It's fine. I can't hear you now.
I think that was on purpose.
There's background noise here that maybe disruptive. Did some research, and it turns out while the rate was $100 and it had been so from 2009 up until late 2021, on October 1st, it was increased to $125. I asked for a little bit additional research because I wanted to know what stone setters received in regular, private cemeteries for non-veterans. And it's, it's a different, they operate differently. Sometimes they charge by square foot. Some cemeteries charge $200 to set a marker, to set a gravestone. It varies, but I think the 125 is still very low, and it doesn't come close to even helping the stone setters break even with that labor. So I've asked for some additional research on that. And depending on what comes back, that could be something that we discuss again as a group at our next meeting, if there's interest.
Kate, did you ever get any sense how many of these are done a year?
I did. There are approximately 2,000 veteran burials. In 2020, there were 2,200 of them, inclusive of burials in the State Veteran Cemetery. So that Middletown. They weren't able to break down for me how many burials were in 2020 in Middletown. But I can find that out on my own, and then we can subtract that from the total 2,200 and find out how many are in private cemeteries.
And the going rate was, you said, over 200?
That's in
Private?
approximately, and those are in private cemeteries.
Right.
Like what a civilian would pay,
Yes.
a estate of a civilian would pay for setting a headstone.
And that's for the standard ground level plaque type setting, correct? Yeah, because my brother is in the cemetery in Weathersfield, the old Weathersfield, and when they set the stone, nobody ever came back for any money, but they asked for a contribution because this is a semi autonomous, that old burying ground down in Weathersfield. But they asked for a contribution, and then I found out later that I think what they were doing was sending that on to the people who set the ground level stone.
Right. So the state pays the stone setters per setting that they do.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's $125. So I think if they were asking like for a donation, yeah, they're trying to help.
They're trying to offset that difference.
Bridge the difference because it's so far from where they need to be, just to break even. The people I spoke to about this, they said the stone setters are they're not trying to make money on this. They're just trying to not lose $100 every time they do one, which is completely fair.
Mm-hmm.
Completely fair. And what's happening is that it's not a growing field. It's just there's not and you have to have specialized heavy equipment that you can and have the skill and ability to navigate it in tight spaces in a cemetery in a respectful way, and also do good work so that these markers are there for the duration. Because I've had conversations with some other people about this, and they're like, well, my brother works for a landscape company. Why can't he do it? It's not just, digging a hole and putting a plaque on the ground. It's a whole operation involving, a foundation, concrete, that it's construction, real construction in a cemetery. So there's movement there, but it's not even close to where it needs to be.
Did I hear you say that the rate was increased in October of
Effective
2021?
October 1 of 21, it went from
Okay.
$100 to $125. So
Still not, yeah.
Who
yeah,
makes
I mean,
the decision of the rate? The legislature? Or-
the Department of Veterans Affairs,
Okay.
the state department, the state DVA does. I think it was telling that it hadn't been increased in 12 years. And then when it was increased, it was only $25. I would have to imagine, I got this information on October 1st, coincidentally, after our last meeting. And I would have to say, with the inflation that we've experienced and the dwindling workforce that does this, and the resources they need, fuel, equipment, I would have to imagine that it would be even high. Concrete, raw materials, the cost of raw materials have increased substantially as well. So,
Can I ask, is that 125 the labor, or does that include the materials?
so that is labor and materials.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
yeah, that's like working pennies.
criminal,
Like you said, the material is very expensive.
very expensive.
Not to mention machinery and all that stuff. Yeah,
The fuel, the maintenance,
yeah.
the fuel to move the machinery from your workplace to the cemetery, and then the fuel for the equipment in this, to dig the hole in the cemetery. The marker hole, not the dig hole, the marker hole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or does each cemetery have their own? Like if you look at a veteran cemetery like our Fairview, do they have their own machinery? Or does the guy or girl have to bring it from?
At these private cemeteries, most of them they're all independent operators. So they have to bring their own equipment, and they work at multiple cemeteries typically. just as,
and they have to be approved. They like in that Weathersfield old burying ground. I mean, you practically have come over on the Mayflower just to get in anyway. And so, to have anybody to work there is, I mean, there's no way that just somebody can come in with a backhoe and do that
no,
work.
no. It was interesting because when I first learned about this last summer and we were talking about this, like for the next month, I got like a phone call every 4 or 5 days about questions about cemeteries. I was like, what is going on here? But I learned a lot about cemetery boards and, the management and finances of cemetery boards and how they operate and who they, who they will allow to be buried there, what requirements they set all that themselves. So, it was surprising. It's very surprising. I'd never worked with a private cemetery before, as all of my relatives are for the most part veterans. So it was eye-opening.
Mhm.
It was eye-opening.
Kate,
Yeah. Yes.
now you've spent a lot of time in and around the legislature. I know that we're in the middle of a session right now. Is there any opportunity to get legislation in yeah.
No.
Not this year. Yeah.
Not this year. No.
Is that simply because of the timing, or also just the fact that that an increase was just approved in?
The increase was just approved. It would. It's a short legislative session. We're done. We have, let's see, 3, 6. We have 11 more business days before the end of session. This kind of increase, it would need to go through the process. Well, the DVA would need to be on board with it. It would have to be, added to the budget, go through the appropriations. It had to go through the whole process, and that's not going to happen right now.
So 2023 it is.
Yeah, and that'll be a long session, and if this is something that we agree to as a group, we could work with other commissions across the state. Hold on a moment. The lights went off on me. Would have to, we could connect with other commissions across the state, gather some more information about the stone setters, and put together like a package, and present it to legislators of our choice. It depends on, who's on the legislators' Veterans Affairs Committee at the time. Also this is a piece of legislation that bipartisan would I have to imagine would get broad bipartisan support. This is not a partisan issue. This is paying people, enough for their labor to break even so they keep doing this work to support veterans in their final resting place. So this is something a lot of people would want to be involved with. It would help if we had conversations with stone setters that do this and get their feedback and find out what they want and what they need in order to make this economically feasible for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where would we find one?
I'll find one. Don't worry, I'll find one. Yeah, I'll find one. I'll call one of these cemetery boards and say, "Hey, I don't want in, but could you connect me with, your favorite stone setter?"
And the memorial places too. In other words, like what's the place up by Goodwin Park? any of the people that do the bigger stones, they're people who can, because some people just get those square flat deals normally, non-veterans.
Right. Right.
They have these people that do the work for them. And so, whatever that, I can't think of the name of the place now, the granite place right there by Goodwin Park.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm sure that they would know exactly who to get a hold of.
Yeah. Yeah. We can definitely find stuff. We'll definitely find them. I could call the gentleman from Eastern Connecticut that I spoke to last year also. And I'm sure he would be happy to pass along their info if it meant helping them.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Does anybody have any questions about any of this or anything else?
But being the rookie, I just would ask, is there something you want us to do? Make phone calls or coordinate this or just try to gather some kind of information?
Not yet. I'm
Okay.
trying to find out. I've been trying to find out what precipitated the increase, what was the genesis of the increase, and I'm trying to find out basically who spearheaded that. What was it, the stone setters or the veteran service officers, across the state that were successful in lobbying the Department of Veterans Affairs for this increase? Was, because the increase didn't come out of the Veterans Affairs Committee here at the legislature. It came from the Department of Veteran Affairs itself. So from Commissioner Sadi's office. So I've been trying to get a hold of them without any success recently. I'll keep trying. But I wanted to find out and what was their thought process, of the $25 increase is good, but what was their thought process in not saying, hey, it's been 12 years, etc. Why didn't they go for 200? Or maybe they did, and this was this was what they got. I don't know.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Was it something that they just carved out of their budget too? They may
Yeah.
have just said, this is something we can carve out of present funds, and maybe never was legislative approval. Or is that possible?
No, it all has to.
Okay.
No. I looked at the line items for their budget, and there was actually a decrease in the line item for burials. And my thought was, there's been just, how do I say this? Just a demographic shift. So many of our World War II veterans, the bulk of them, if you will, the bell curve, have passed.
Mhm.
And there's something of a little bit of a dip right now, a lull, before we see a demographic shift towards more Vietnam era veterans requiring these services. Their estates, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sirens, Kate?
I got done from work at 6:45 and I didn't have time to drive home. Can't you see this beautiful government office behind me?
Yeah.
But the house is still in session, and they go over the intercom, and it's really loud. I don't know. That was just my first working theory as to why that line item of the budget was decreased, was that they're expecting a decrease in the number of burials that they have to service. But as soon as I can get a hold of somebody over there, I'll ask them what was going on. Hopefully they can, share some information with us on that.
To the extent that we might be able to raise awareness of this issue and perhaps partner with other Veterans Affairs commissions around the state and maybe do something good for veterans and their families.
All right.
I hope that there's something that we can.
And from my conversation with the gentleman in Eastern Connecticut, I think a lot of the stone setters are veterans themselves. Because that's where a lot of them learned the skill to do this work, to the heavy machinery equipment, this kind of construction and landscaping work, civil engineering type work. I get light civil engineering work.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions or thoughts? So John, back to your question. I think we'll probably have to wait until the next meeting, which would be, early summer.
Okay.
Well, actually, Kate, I will throw this out to the group. It's not on our agenda, but I'll just share with you that I will probably send out an invitation. I don't know. I'm not sure that Matt is going to be able to join us this evening, in which case we will definitely want to tackle that other agenda item next time. But I was contacted today by the West Hartford Town Clerk's Office. They wanted to let us know that the Secretary of the State, who last year had presented awards or medals to Korean War era veterans around the state, will be doing something similar, probably in the June timeframe, for Vietnam era veterans. And she'll be going around the state to do this. And the town may be looking for our assistance to help get the word out that this is in the works. One of the challenges is that not all veterans self-identify. So while the town can reach out to individuals who have applied for benefits and therefore can be identified in that way, there may be many others in town who have not. So we may want to put the word out to through various channels that this is happening, and that we, if you would like to be a part of this ceremony, that you're welcome to be involved. So I may schedule a special meeting for us next month to discuss in detail. Maybe we can have somebody from the town join us, provide us with some more details and let us know how we might be able to help. But I think that's a great use of our time. And
Adam, so the Secretary of State's office doesn't have a list of people that they want to honor.
Right. They were going to rely on the town
and
Yep.
to give them a list of people
Exactly.
to honor. Okay. That makes sense. All right.
So would potentially another Tuesday evening in May? Okay.
And so to piggyback off of that, received an email today from the town that I think it was today, that starting in April, that the town's committees and commissions and boards are going to start meeting in person. So at our next meeting in May, at this special meeting that Adam's talking about, we may need to meet in person. I just read it right before the meeting, so I'll follow up with them, and let Adam know. We'll let you know what they say. Because I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you prefer to meet via WebEx or in person?
No, I
Just
can
think about it.
do either
you know.
way.
What's that?
I can do either type of meeting. WebEx is convenient in a situation just like yours that we're all in sometimes where you can't get home right away. I stay a little longer in the office. So
The only good thing about the pandemic is this sort of thing. With my screaming children downstairs, I can run up, do this, I don't, and then my wife doing the same thing. That'll be interesting once we go live again, how that's going to work out.
Right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say too. I mean, it would be nice to see everyone in person. Even if we did in person, maybe there's some way to do WebEx option. I just know like we have good attendance right now, but obviously it's going to be tougher for some folks to make it in person. So the attendance, if there's no WebEx option, they might go down. As we saw in years past, even pre-COVID, there was times where we only had a handful. We didn't have quorum for some of the meetings. So just a thought.
I agree.
Yeah.
Some people might not be feeling well, but they're well enough to attend, so they
Right.
could have the option.
Right. It's
Do
true. Yep.
we know if hybrid is an option?
I don't know yet. And I think per usual, it's up in the air because um from what I understand, a lot of towns um are shifting back to in-person meetings. But as we've seen, in the last 12 months, there's been conversations about requiring to shift back to in-person meetings, and then they say, well, maybe not yet. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. I don't know if this is that situation or not, that type of scenario, but um, I'll give them a call tomorrow and, see what I can find out.
Okay. I would do either. Okay. Unlike I am retired, and so I can either sit in my office or I can come to a meeting. So either way.
Can also do either, Kate.
Yeah, likewise. But I'm just questioning, if you can't attend a meeting for a double up, do we just contact you, Kate, or Adam?
Me or Adam. Mhm.
Okay. Like I have an obligation on Tuesdays. Tonight I'm missing it, but sometimes I can't make it Tuesday. Okay. I'll let you know.
All right. Let's see. Let's see. So we talked about that.
The town, you want to talk about the recognition of holidays?
Yes, please.
This
Yes,
was
please.
this yes, please. This came from a message I received from a veteran in town. I believe he is a Vietnam veteran, and he was disappointed that that the most recent day commemorating the Vietnam War and Vietnam veterans was not acknowledged by the town. And I had to take some ownership of that because that's, I think, as a town commission, we should be on top of that, and I should have been on top of that. So I did mention that we were meeting tonight and that I would discuss this with the group about going through the calendar and finding every conceivable veteran-related date and making sure that we don't miss anything, and that we are aware, and then also that the town communications staff are aware. And even if it's an acknowledgement online or on the website, it's something. They're not all Veterans Day and Memorial Day. There are a lot of other days that should be recognized. So I thought perhaps offline we could begin to compile those dates and come up with a calendar that we could keep an eye on, that also we could provide to the town.
Coincidentally, today is the 27th anniversary of the Murrah building bombing in Oklahoma City. And I only mention it because I was there. And so I was talking to some people about it today. I was stationed in Oklahoma City at the time. And so I'm sorry?
Tinker.
Tinker.
Hmm.
And so Oklahoma City is large, is large in square footage, but at the time small in population. And the local EMS, police, et cetera, they didn't have the resources for such an event, but they had a giant military base full of well-trained, well-equipped people to support the situation. And I know that several, I'm just, this is just coincident. This literally just popped in my head when we were talking about this. There were several active duty members. I think there was at least but several veterans that were also, injured or died in the Murrah building. I mean, would that be included in the type of commemorative events that the resident wants would like the town to acknowledge more, to be, or is this person speaking specifically about
I think conflict and service
BJ
lines.
Day or things like that?
I think conflict and service line specific was. I think it would probably more along those lines.
Like the Marine Corps birthday, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yep.
That would be John's responsibility.
Sure.
Right.
That's right. We could divvy this up by service.
That's right.
No.
The Navy and the Coast Guard would be SOL, right?
Well, I did receive a text today. We may have the Navy may be represented soon.
Okay.
There is a gentleman that I need to reach out to in town, and we have. I thought that our commission only had 9 slots, but from the website it seemed that we had 10. In which case we do have a vacancy, and it may be time for the Navy.
All right.
So I'll report back.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Space Force. They don't even have any veterans yet, so.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I don't have to worry about those guys for a while.
We'll never have to worry about them. I'm sorry. That's it.
Yeah.
My brother's Navy and my sister's Coast Guard, and it's like a running joke just amongst us about the Space Force. I mean,
Listen, there may be Space Force personnel in West Hartford, and we honor their service.
we can still make fun of them, though.
Okay.
I mean, just from a place of love.
Okay.
All right. Well, that looks like Matt will not be able to join us this evening. With that, we have addressed all of our agenda items. And since this is a special meeting, we are not able to veer far afield from our agenda. So would...
You looking for a motion to adjourn?
Yes, please. Sorry, my brain is, I'm gone. My brain is...
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. I second your motion. Okay. Then we are adjourned at 7:51 p.m.
Kate, I'd just like to tell you my son's was an AWACS pilot. You kept him in the air.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So
Very
since
cool.
we're not...
He graduated from the Air Force Academy in 2004.
Okay, I was gone by then, so.
Yeah.
Did he go straight into heavies, or was he a fighter pilot before that?
No, he went straight to the heavies.
Straight there? Really? That's interesting.
And he served with NATO.
Oh, okay. You were in
Island
the
Kirk.
UK. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. That's nice. It's beautiful there. Absolutely beautiful.
Sure.
Gorgeous.
I
Really nice.
don't have an excuse to go anymore.
I know. It was beautiful. Really beautiful place.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm
well,
sorry to keep everybody.
oh
No,
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 it's
it's
good.
okay.
It's good.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Thank
Dave.
you.
Bye-bye.